This will be the reading for the sign of Sagittarius for the month of September 2026. The deck that I'm using is the Rider-Waite deck by Pamela Coleman-Smith and Arthur Waite. And what I've done, as usual, is I have pulled 3 cards for each consecutive week within the month. I also pulled an overall energy card, and this will affect your emotions within each of those weeks, and extending right into each consecutive card that is pulled within each individual week. So it makes it a very long read, very long listen. So put your feet up, grab a coffee, a tea, the cat, the dog, relax and enjoy the reading. So we're going to start with your energy card. Now, your energy card, you got the 7 of Pentacles. The 7 of Pentacles is, basically talking about knowing and visualizing and taking the right steps that you need to take in order to move forward in something in your life, okay? You're being very self-reliant, and you're being very individualistic, okay? You're going against the mainstream, and you're standing up for what it is that you believe in, okay? You're being reliable, you're very successful, perhaps even deciding to do something different in order to achieve a goal, in a more sustainable, realistic way, okay? So it does talk about there possibly being an unexpected turn of events within the month. And so this is the energy card. So things are going to kind of, as the weeks go on, as you enter into those weeks and leave those weeks, okay, things are going to bring about change. So you might have something that happens one week that's going to extend right through to the end of the month of September. So, and you might be feeling a little bit chaotic. The environment's a little bit chaotic, and you're having to really get a grip on things. Now, it did talk about you having a set plan in place, okay? That you're doing things in a more realistic way. And what's happening, possibly, we're in a period of turmoil in our world, okay? And maybe there's going to be some type of problem getting the resources that you need. And it could be, it could simply be that maybe you're in a country where it's having tariffs put on the products that are being mailed out, or products that are being mailed in. And so, you might have to contend with a lack of finances or a problem with finances. So you might have to be more creative as you're moving into that first week. So that's your energy card. And the first couple of days of that first week, you have the 3 of Cups. 3 of Cups talks about a love triangle. Not a good thing, yeah. But it also talks about other people that don't appreciate your success and how you're moving forward, right? Now it talks about communications that are going to be delayed, or they're going to offer you less than expected. Maybe you had purchased something and you were waiting for acknowledgement of that purchase, and maybe you're finding out that the price has, gone up. It's gone up in value. And so these are the things you're contending with in that first week. Now, you might even be feeling a little bit depressed, or maybe even feeling a little bit lonely, or cut off from people, okay? Whether it be brothers or sisters or friends or family, drifting apart, okay? Maybe people are deciding to go a different route in their life. And so you're feeling kind of like, almost like you're floundering. Yeah. Now, it does talk about the pulling away of a partnership, okay? That could be a romantic partner. That could be a business partnership. It could simply be a group of work friends that are deciding to, quit the job and go into a different venue, okay? And so that's what you're dealing with. But it does talk about you turning to other people in the first couple of days of that first week, looking for comfort. Yeah, maybe even getting involved in some type of indulgence. If you're going through a period of depression, I wouldn't be reaching for the bottle, okay? I wouldn't be reaching for the bottle, because that just magnifies the issues and makes it seem worse than it is. So let's move into the middle 2 days of that first week. Middle 2 days of that first week, you have the 5 of Wands reversed, okay? And that talks about you're making an attempt at starting a new way of life. You might even be in competition with other people, other workers, other friends. Maybe you're applying for a job and there's a lot of other contenders for that job, okay? Now, just talk about someone in your close circle of energy that's a little bit resentful of you, okay? It could be a sibling, it could be a brother, a sister, it even could be a paternal aspect, okay? Or a maternal aspect where someone's not feeling like you really care. It could even be a romantic inclination where maybe your partner sees that you're so focused on making money or on a business that you're not giving them the time to the family that perhaps you need to be, okay? Now, it does talk about you being a bit of a loner. You feel like you don't fit into society, and you don't even want to. Yeah, you don't even want to. It's like you don't want to deal with other people's crap. You don't want to deal with other people's chaotic energies. You just want to move forward on a project that you're involved in your own way. You don't want other people's input because, too many cooks spoil the broth, right? Now, it does talk about you're willing to listen, okay? You're listening to other people's point of view, but you don't agree. And you're not wanting to fight over it. You're just letting them say their piece, listening to it and then walking away and doing things your way anyway. So, it does talk about personality clashes as you're moving into the middle part of that first week. And like I said, could be with a family member, could be with a romantic partner, could even be with a coworker, or maybe a business partnership. And maybe you're saying, if you don't agree with me, that's fine, but we're going to do my way anyway. So maybe you're holding the most of the shares in this company. And so you're basically kind of forcing people to do things your way, right? Okay, Sagittarius, you're in the last 2 days of that first week, okay? You've got the nine of swords, and it's straight up. And you know what, Sagittarius, you worry way too much, okay? You have these very strong mental energies, and you might even be dealing with some insomnia. You lay down at night, and I mean, maybe you heard about downsizing at work, or problems with tariffs, or financial help that you need, or getting involved in a business maybe that you're involved in, okay? And maybe they're cutting back on the wages, or they're cutting back on the work, and so that's affecting you. Everybody has to pay rent or mortgage or car payments or insurance, okay? Everybody's got those issues, and you might be so concerned about it that it's keeping you up at night. Yeah. Now, just talk about avoiding conflicts, okay? Especially with an air sign female. Now, Gemini, Scorpio, Aquarius, I think. I'll have to put that down below. I'm not really sure. Okay, so conflicts with an air sign female is going to lead to complications. Okay, now there's also someone that's dealing with female health issues. And, you have to be realistic and realize that, you have to acknowledge other people's journeys, okay? Respect their journeys. Don't jump in there and say, well, if you hadn't done this, you wouldn't be doing that, or you wouldn't be dealing with that health issue. Just understand that everybody's going through their own issues at this point in time. Now, it does talk about a caretaker. Are you becoming a caretaker, or is this someone else? Are you becoming a caretaker, or is someone becoming your caretaker? Are you dealing with health issues? Maybe you're simply having someone come in and do your house cleaning for you because you're not able to do it at this point in time, okay? But it does talk about females in the family. So if you're of the female gender, then this could refer to you. If you are not, however, okay, it would talk about a female in the family, possibly an air sign female, who's dealing with health issues and maybe needs someone to come in and do some caretaking for them. It also talks about possibly you gathering information, maybe even confronting these problems with health or diet or mobility in some way, okay? So be aware of that. And if this is you and you're getting this reading early, because I am doing September's reading in the middle of August. And so if I post these and you get this, maybe you can research what it is that you can do to accommodate any type of illness or problems that you're having with your mobility at this point in time. So be aware of that. Now, it could simply mean that maybe your vehicle is on the fritz, okay? Maybe you haven't got the funds to fix your vehicle, okay? But there is something that is taking place when it comes to mobility. Now, it could very well be a maternal aspect. It could be a sister, it could be a cousin, it could be a daughter. It is a female aspect. Somebody is dealing with health issues and it is affecting their mobility in some way. And so, yeah, you're worried as hell. You're worried as hell, and it's keeping you up at night. Okay, so let us move into the second week. Okay, so that first week is all about, you know, insomnia, and it's all about worries, and it's about anxieties and things like that. So now we're in the second week. And in the second week, you have the Queen of Swords reversed, okay? And that talks about, you know, you're kind of dealing with someone, and this could be a female aspect. It could be a co-worker. It could be a boss. It could be a male energy or a female energy, okay? It's someone who's not very... they're kind of cold and factual, and they don't really deal with emotions well, okay? Now, you're not asserting your power because you don't want to offend somebody. You don't want to offend this individual. And they're really kicking up a fuss. Now, just talk about the fact that this person might not be playing by the rules, okay? And they're only interested in their facts, in their details, okay? They don't really care what you think, okay? They're going to move forward in some aspect, and they're going to put the pedal to the metal. They are going to do exactly what they want to do, and it doesn't matter what you feel, okay? It really doesn't. So this is the individual you're dealing with in the first couple of days of that second week. Now, it could be a teacher, it could be someone involved in some type of organization, in some type of hierarchy, okay? It could be an educator, it could be a corporation. I mean, maybe you live in a rental unit, and maybe the landlords in the rental unit are, you know, changing their venues. They don't want pets in their building. They don't want certain individuals. Like there's not going to be any freebies given. You know what I'm saying? They're putting the rules in place, and they're sticking to the facts, okay? So if there's someone on a lease, and let's say that lease is over, okay? And maybe you are one of these people. Maybe you are one of the people living in this apartment building, or, you know, maybe it's a relationship that has broken apart and you're leaving, okay? You have to take your name off the lease, because if your name is on the lease, you're responsible for half. If let's say your partner takes off and doesn't pay the rent, and your name was on the lease and you didn't remove it when you left, okay? Maybe your partner wasn't paying the rent or the mortgage, okay? And your name was on that lease. You're responsible for at least 50% of that. Now, it also talks about maternal aspect. That could be a mother or grandmother, but it is an authority figure. It would be a nurturer. So if you had an older sibling, perhaps a sister, that was, you know, maybe your maternal aspect is dealing with health issues, and your older sister is an executor, and they're responsible for making sure that things are going the right way for their parent, for their elderly parent, which of course you're going to feel a little bit kind of like put aside. You're going to feel like you weren't important enough to be able to make those decisions, and now all of a sudden perhaps your sibling is saying, look, I need help with this, you have to help me, and you're kind of saying, I don't want to. It's not my problem. It's your problem, right? So this is what you're dealing with. There's a little bit of back and forth here. Now, just talk about you having to be diplomatic, okay? But you're going to have to hold your ground, because whoever this air sign female is, she's very, very persistent. Very persistent, almost aggressively persistent. They're going to do what they want to do, and they're going to make sure that you are there, and you're going to hold up your end of the bargain. So if you're going to make a bargain with this individual, make sure you hold up your end, because you might end up having to, you know, foot the bill for their mistake, okay? So be aware of that. And, you know, be diplomatic with this individual. And I don't care if it's a family member or a romantic partner that your relationship has broke apart. Be diplomatic, because they're very, very vindictive. And it won't look good on you. Okay, so the middle part of that second week, okay, middle couple of days. Oh, you've got the death card, and it's straight up. So that it could very well be that there is someone who's crossed over to the next side. And it very well might be a family member. It could be a maternal aspect, a sister, it's a female energy, okay? And this is a general reading, so be aware of that. But it is going to bring about a dramatic change or even a transformation. And it is going to bring about a profound, frightening experience. That's going to change everything. You're going to start looking at your own mortality, okay? You're going to review your own life and accept that each and every one of us has to, you know, say hello to our maker at one point in another, okay? So it does talk about danger to someone in their health, someone who's elderly or very sick. It could even stand for a close call or a traumatic event that takes place with someone else in your life, okay? And it is a female energy, and it is an elderly female energy. So it could be a grandmother, an aunt, a mother, a maternal aspect, okay? Now, it does talk about you focusing on how to change your life. You're seeing the things that you are dealing with or that you've dealt with your whole life. You're seeing them and you're thinking, you know what? I don't want to end up 6 feet under. I have to start taking care of my health. I have to limit my stress. I have to start living a more happy and cheerful life and stop waking up in the middle of the night worrying about things that could happen, that might happen, and that possibly will happen, okay? So it does talk about you having to focus on your health. Now, something is coming to an end. With that death card, it could be a job, it could be a business association, it could be a friendship, it could be a romantic partnership, okay? It could also be that someone that you care about is going to cross to the next side. And you have to be prepared for that. Now, it seems to me in the second week that you've been witnessing the breakdown of things, okay? Whether it's a breakdown of someone's health, someone's emotional aspect in their life, they're breaking down. And it could even be a partnership, a romantic partnership, a job scenario, okay? Maybe you're losing hours at work. Maybe you are, needing to lose those hours at work because you're overwhelmed, right? But it could also be a relationship. It could be, your financial prowess. Things are breaking down and not in a good way. So something's coming to an end. As I said, a job, a relationship, a project, even a program of study. You're having to let go of the old to bring in the new, okay? And all things have an ending and a beginning. So the last couple of days of that second week, you got the Six of Cups and it's reversed. And that talks about needing to feel secure, but it's not fulfilled at this time. You're not feeling secure. You've dealt with so much transformation and dramatic change in the second week, and you knew it was coming about. You knew that something was building. You knew that that energy, that chaotic energy, was going to explode into your life, okay? Now, it does talk about possibly you receiving a gift or an inheritance from a past relationship. It could be a job, maybe getting, maybe you've lost your job, you've lost hours, you've quit your job, you've been kind of demoted of some way, okay? And maybe you're going to get that 50-year pin or that 10-year pin or, employee of the year, whatever it may be, okay? And that might bring about a little bit of a bonus, but hang on to that bonus because things are going to be tight in that second week. Now, it does talk about you looking to the past for an answer, okay? You have a question in your mind. Why did this happen? Why did this happen to this individual? They were fine, they were healthy, and maybe someone you cared about has passed, and it might be a maternal aspect. And maybe they were pretty tough. They were, very stalwart and never got sick and never had any issues. And now all of a sudden, they're dealing with health issues. They might even be crossing to the next realm, and you're kind of thinking, damn, when did this happen? How did this happen? So it does talk about you looking to the past, okay? Looking to the past for an answer to a dilemma that you have in your mind, okay? But it's pushing you in a new direction. It's showing you that it might be time for a change in your life. And it also talks about groups of people that, they might be arguing. I mean, maybe you're invited to a celebration of life, or maybe you're going to a family celebration of sorts, okay? And there's going to be minor disagreements. People are not going to agree on how to move forward in something. They're not going to agree to maybe even the division of some type of property, okay, that you've been inherited, okay, with. So now it does talk about the appearance of an old friend. So an old friend is coming to join the fold. And, you know, it's not a bad thing because you might need all the support that you can get in that second week because you're dealing with a lot of issues, a lot of issues, a lot of chaotic energy. And the last card that you have in that second week is the Sun. And I hate to tell you this, Sagittarius, but it's reversed. So it does talk about, you know, you don't want to be involved in this chaotic energy. You don't want to be at the center of attention. You don't want people to say, "Oh, they're so and so," right? You don't want to be involved in that. You just want to quietly say your adieus and be on your way. Simple as that, okay? Now it says that it is going to take extra work for you to get what it is that you want. And you know what? You're worried about something. You're worried about possibly your children that maybe are far away or maybe they're troubled at this point in time, okay? So it does talk about you having to visualize more positive things. Now, it also says that possibly you're clinging to some type of childish motive, okay, or idea. And I mean, maybe you had an argument with someone from the past. Could even be a past relationship, and you had an argument with them. And, you know, people aren't agreeing with the way that you're viewing things, okay? And so what I'm kind of seeing here is that you need to change your attitude. Stop clinging to those old ideas and old values and old grievances that you have, and stop being vindictive, okay? Now it does say that, you know, you don't want to be in the limelight. You feel uncomfortable about being in the public eye, okay? And there is someone in your circle of energy who is basically downplaying your accomplishments. That could be an old friend who's bringing up the past and the fact that maybe you used to tip the bottle a little bit too much, or maybe you had a bit of an anger problem, okay? And it is saying that, you know, you didn't really put the effort in to a familial aspect in your life. You weren't there. I mean, maybe a family member has passed. Maybe a maternal aspect has passed. And you weren't the type of person that would stay connected. You didn't keep that connection alive with your family. And so people are saying, well, you know, you weren't there for them anyway. You weren't there for mom or dad. You weren't there. Well, it's a maternal aspect. So they're basically saying to you, you weren't there for mom. Mom tried calling you all the time and you ignored her calls. You were always too busy, right? Now, it does say that you need more opportunities to display a new side of your personality. Yeah. So perhaps you're seeing that things need to change. How you view the world needs to change. How you talk to people needs to change. How you treat people, keeping that connection alive with the people that are important in your life. And if you have children, that's very well might be where you need to form that connection and keep it solid, okay? You're a very strong individual. Yeah, Sagittarius, you are. You're a very strong individual. And you know what? I'll give you kudos. You're a hard worker. You're a very hard worker, and you're willing to put in the effort to gain financial freedom, okay? Or to support your family if that need be. But you know what? You're suppressing the real personality that you have, that energy that used to be so vibrant and happy and fulfilled and, you know, friendly and loving and kind. You're suppressing that. You're hiding that part of your aspect because you have learned by the school of hard knocks, and it's starting to affect you. It really, truthfully is. So now we're in the third week. Third week, you have the Two of Wands reversed. And the Two of Wands reversed talks about making an irrational decision. You're making a choice that is not thought out. You didn't think this decision out. You're very indecisive about things, and you might have impulsively made a snap decision, okay? It does talk about a familiar choice that didn't work before. It sure as hell ain't going to work now. If you do what you did, you're going to get what you got. Remember that. Simplify your life, okay? Give something up. You don't have to have the best of everything. You don't have to hold on or hoard things, okay? If you have children and the children are needy at this point in time, are you going to hoard all your groceries in the cupboard because you're scared of that neediness befalling you in some way? So if you know that someone is struggling and you have the means and the wherewithal, damn it, Sagittarius, put your hand in your pocket and help them out, okay? Now, just talk about there being partnership turmoil. Yeah. And it talks about a friendship, a business project, a business relationship, okay? You're dealing with inequality, possibly due to ego. Now, is this you? Maybe there is someone who, is a familial uh, aspect of your life, your children, your partner, your family member, and maybe they're struggling. Maybe they're struggling financially, and you can help them, but you're thinking, I don't have to help you. You can take care of yourself. You're an adult. You don't need my help. I have to take care of me, right? So, that ego needs to be brought down a little bit, because you know what? We all get our karma. We all get our karma. If you call someone fat, if you call someone stupid, you know what? Turn around and you're going to gain some weight. And I know I've seen this happen. Someone calls you fat, down the road, who's the one that's gaining the weight and can't lose it, okay? Uh, Maybe you call someone stupid. Down the road, you know what? You might lose your ability. You might get dementia, okay? So be aware of those things. Karma comes back, and it comes back full force, and it doesn't always come back when you're expecting it to. It's like that thief in the night. So in the middle couple of days of that third week, you have the Five of Pentacles, and that talks about a secure situation that is going to change. It's going to destabilize. Like I said, if you're holding on to the money because you don't want to help someone out because of ego, right? What's going to happen? You're going to end up losing your job. You're going to end up having financial difficulties. I'm telling you, this is so true, and it doesn't even depend on Tara. It's true. Karma will come back full circle, so be aware of that. Now, it does talk about a change in home dynamics. There's a lot of stress. There's going to be a change in your material situation. You're going to feel needy or even cut loose from a situation. Maybe you're going to move house. Maybe you were in a stable home environment and you had a good job, 9 to 5, and you had a good partnership, and then all of a sudden the relationship breaks up. You lose your home, you lose your job because you're having to move at a distance, right? So moving house. Now, it does talk about needy family members, right? And maybe they need financial help. And here's your chance, Sagittarius. Here is your chance, okay, to change that karmic tie, to change it. And if you can, do it. If you have an extra $20 and someone's starving, they have no food in their cupboard, and they have children, you know what? Put that damn hand in that pocket, pull out that $20 and give it to them, or take them down and buy them some groceries. Or if you have a loaf of bread in the house and they don't have any bread, give them that damn loaf of bread. Get off this ego trip. It's not all about money. Okay, I hate to do this reading because it sounds like I'm your mom and giving you crap, but I'm not. I'm just trying to warn you. Karmic cycles happen all the time, even to tarot readers. Okay, so the last couple of days of that third week, you're dealing with finally, okay, you've broken that karmic tie. You've broken it. Oh, sorry, we are now in, hang on, I think I got this messed up here. Yeah. I am sorry, my friends. So in that third week, you had Two of Wands reversed, you had the Five of Pentacles straight up, and you had the Sun reversed, okay? So it's the same story, just a few little notches, okay? So now we're in the last week. First 2 weeks, you were dealing with traumatic events. You were dealing with anxiety, building. Your intuition was telling you something was up, right? Second week, you dealt with dramatic changes, perhaps someone crossing to the next side. Third week, you were dealing with the repercussions of that dramatic change. And now, in the fourth week, the fourth week, like, you need this, right? The fourth week. The Six of Swords straight up. Yeah. Talks about harmony and balance. Thank goodness. So you finally dealt with all the chaotic energy. In the fourth week, things have calmed down, okay? So you're feeling in balance mentally. You're thinking clearly, okay? You're focused. And you're at a turning point in your life. This is going to enable you to move forward, okay? Move in a new direction. There is an opportunity for cooperating with someone on a project, on a plan, a business endeavor, okay? People are on board with what you're planning to do, and they're willing to help you out. It does say you're going to send someone to speak on your behalf perhaps even a reference for a job. Okay, maybe you're sick. Maybe you're having to send someone that you trust to, kind of do a job that you had planned to do if you have a business of sorts, okay? Because you're feeling ill at this point in time. Now, it does say that you might go somewhere to speak on someone else's behalf, okay? Whether that's a social group, a political group, a religious group, a school group, okay? Maybe even recommending someone for a job. Now, this person may be changing careers, changing education programs, um, changing simple job that they have, okay? And their situation is moving them forward into a higher situation, a more lucrative situation, okay? And you might be giving them a recommendation for that. Now, it does talk about there being a radical dislocation, something that is going to happen, that's going to happen very quickly, and it's not something that you would have vied to happen. You didn't expect this, okay? You wouldn't have preferred this to happen. Maybe you're going to have to change locations for your job, and you liked where you were, and you're going to have to leave because your job is moving to a new location. Maybe you're being moved into a different department, okay? That type of energies that are coming about. It's not something that you want it to happen, okay? But you have to acknowledge it, and it's going to take place, okay? Now, it also talks about possibly a family that's moving, and possibly there's children in that family. Maybe they're having to change schools because of that movement, okay? So be aware of that. In that fourth week, there's a lot of good energy, there's balance, and there's finding a place where you actually feel content, you feel secure, okay? We're moving into the middle 2 days of that last week. Excuse me. And you have the Ten of Pentacles, and that talks about an inheritance. Someone giving you something that they valued, okay? It could be money, it could be property, it could be a land, even car. Maybe a maternal aspect has passed and they've left you their wedding ring, okay? Those type of things. Talks about furniture, maybe giving you something that they value, okay? Their favorite recliner. But it's something that they took good care of and that they wanted to leave something to you. Even if they weren't of the richest stature, they wanted you to have something so that you know that they cared about you, okay? So we are now in the last 2 days of that last week. Damn it. Damn it. Okay, so all that good stuff happening, and then all of a sudden the last 2 days we have some disruptive events, okay? And it's possibly due to your own behavior. So some type of stimulating, seeking behavior, right? You're going to have an argument, maybe even an abrupt break with the past. You're going to have an argument with someone because maybe you decided to have, I don't know, what's your, contention with some type of addiction. Maybe you drink, or, maybe you do illicit drugs, or maybe you do pot, marijuana, whatever it's called, right? And maybe, you get a little bit high on life, or you get a little bit drunk and you said some pretty nasty things to a friend or a family member, and that's going to create some conflict. Don't think it won't. And that might even break apart a friendship, right? Now, Sagittarius, you're assertive, and you're willing to take on challenges and go after new opportunities. That's part of your persona, okay? You have this active, energetic type of competition going on in your life. You like to compete. You like to be the winner. You don't like to lose. In an argument, you'll be the last one to give up on that argument, okay? And that could be what's happening now, is that you're choosing to continue an argument into the future because you don't want to give up your point of view. Yeah. But you're going to see somebody's true character is going to be shown, okay? You're going to see the truth behind somebody's persona, yeah? And that might even be yourself. You might see that you have this type of arrogant type of attitude where you figure you're always right and everybody else is wrong. And you're going to see that might not be true. Now, it does talk about you should. Now, I'm not saying you will, because you're a little bit stubborn sometimes, Sag, and you know that yourself. But it does say that you're going to have to reach out to someone to be supportive, okay? Yeah. Now, it does say that you're going to test new attitudes, new situations, new behaviors, new relationships, okay? You're testing. You're testing things in your life to see what it is that you want to bring into existence, okay? Whether it be a new romantic inclination or whether it just be a new way of being, a new job. Maybe you're going to say, to hell with you guys, you took my hours on me or cut back my hours. I'm leaving, I'm going to get a different job because you don't like the change that they gave. And so maybe, you know, that little bullheaded attitude, you're saying, okay, if I'm not getting the hours, if I'm not able to do the job that I was doing before, and you're moving me to a new department, to hell with you. I want to find another job, right? And that might be what's happening here because of an argument at your place of employment or a business endeavor you're involved in, or even a friendship or a romantic inclination. Maybe you're saying, you know what, if you don't agree with me, I'm hitting the road. I'm on the highway, honey. That's it, right? So it does talk about you're testing your abilities in order to compromise with other people. You're really testing it, but I can kind of see here that the ending is in sight. Okay, it's time for an ending to come full circle. Yeah. Now, it does say that you might be even questioning your beliefs that you've been putting out there, okay? You're questioning how you feel about people, how you feel about situations, environments, jobs, scenarios, okay? You're questioning the things that are taking place in your life, and you're forming a more solid decision on what it is that you want to do. You're done with putting up with crap. You're done with possibly doing a job that you didn't like in a location you didn't like, or maybe being forced into a job that you didn't like when you were perfectly content where you were. Okay, so these things are happening, and they're happening very quickly. It does talk about you needing to connect mentally with someone in your life, because you almost feel like it's almost like you feel like nobody's listening to you, that you have no one to confide in. You have no one to tell how you feel at this point in time. So you might have to reach out to someone. And you know, all that time that I've been talking to you in this reading, I was kind of thinking in the back of my head, it's like, make sure you don't burn all your bridges, right? Because there will come a time in everyone's life when you need that connection to another person, another group, another situation, another environment. You need that connection. No man can live in isolation. So I shall see you in September. Take care. Heed the warnings of the Tarot, because I'm telling you, karmic ties, they come around. That cycle just keeps going until you learn to say no and you put an end to it. So I shall see you in September. Take care, my friends. Namaste. Bye-bye.